Looking at this list gets my mind started. Variables will definitely be useful in so many ways. I can't think of anything specific off the top of my head, but they're so important, there's no doubt we'll be using them. Collections are also a tool we might use. Maybe we'll use collections to store our competitors and their prices. Again, I don't know how specifically just yet, but it's good to know that's an option. Next, dot notation. So many things we can do with dot notation. Off the top of my head, dot notation will definitely help us access our opportunity fields. I know with lists, there's also a sort method that could help us sort the competitor prices from smallest to largest. That could be useful, and I make a mental note of that. If statements. This is something I really need to consider. We might be onto something with if statements. For example, we could say if price 1 is less than price 2 and price 3, set our leading competitor field to competitor 1. If price 2 is less than price 1 and price 3, set our leading competitor field to competitor 2. Again, the same thing for competitor 3. This is actually a viable potential solution, but I'm not ready to settle yet until I've explored all options. Loops. We may also be able to do something with loops here. Whenever you find yourself repeating logic in a predictable way, loops likely will be able to help you out. Our if statement solution strikes me as something repeatable and predictable. We basically ran the same general logic, first for competitor 1, then for competitor 2, and then for competitor 3. It would potentially be more efficient if we used a loop instead of many if statements. Let's keep that in our back pocket for now. Finally, DML. We're definitely going to be updating our opportunity, but do we need DML? Well, our opportunity is definitely part of trigger.new, and our trigger is a before trigger. Given this, I can say with confidence we do not need DML. So out of all our tools, we have a few contenders that may get us to where we need. Using dot notation to sort our prices could be helpful in finding the smallest competitor price. If statements. We can write a bunch of if statements that'll find our leading competitor. Or loops, which we might be able to use to make our if statements more efficient. Let's evaluate each of our 3 potential solutions one by one. First, we might use the dot notation sort method for lists to find the lowest competitor price. First, we'd add all our prices to a list, then we'd sort our list, and finally, we'd get the first value in our list to get our lowest competitor price. But we're not looking necessarily for the lowest price. We're looking for the competitor with the lowest price. So how do we find the matching competitor that has this price from here? Well, I can imagine doing this using if statements. However, we already have another potential if statement solution, so adding a bunch of if statements to this seems like overkill. Moving on. Let's evaluate what our original if statement solution would look like. First, we'd create a variable for each of our prices. This will help us make our code easier to read. Then, we have a series of if statement clauses that checks if a price is less than the other prices. If it is, we use that price's competitor. This actually isn't a bad solution, and it would get our job done. But let me poke some holes in it for you. What if in the future, we added a 4th set of competitor fields? Sure, we'd be able to update this code to include that, but you can imagine this code to get a lot longer if so. Then, what if we added a 5th set of competitors? Well, this code really doesn't scale well the more competitors we have. Our if statements could get really, really ugly. Let's evaluate our 3rd potential solution, loops. My brain is getting pretty fried at this point, so I'm not even going to code anything. I'm just going to type out the general flow. To use a loop, we need something to iterate across, so we'll create a list of all our prices. Then, we'll add all our prices to this list in order of competitor 1 to 3. This is starting to look a lot like our dot notation sorting solution, but I'm going to continue to see where this goes. Next, we'll loop through all our prices to find the lowest one. At this point, we run into the same dilemma we had in our dot notation solution. How do we match the lowest price with its competitor? Well, this time, since we use loops, we might be able to keep track of the position of the lowest price in our list. For example, we'd be able to say the lowest price is the second of the 3 price fields. Then using that position, we can grab the matching competitor given it's also in a list that's ordered the same way. So we could have 2 lists, one with all prices and one with all competitors. And both lists would specifically be ordered from competitor 1 to 3. If we know the second price is the lowest one, we can grab the second competitor from our other list. Make sense? This is probably a better solution than the if statement solution, since if we had a 4th or 5th set of competitors, we really wouldn't need to change very much in our code. Our loop would just iterate 1 or 2 more times. If you're confused at this point, don't worry, it'll make more sense once we start coding. This solution is promising enough that we should at least give it a shot. And as a fallback, we can always just do the if statement solution.